All right, so welcome to the first All Shield call of 2026. Amazing how time flies. It's the usual agenda, so we'll jump right in. Updates on HL7, the January ballot closed yesterday, so ballot reconciliation for Fire R6 will start here pretty soon. We are still doing ballot reconciliation on the lab order workflow. That's the COW IG and the Universal Fire Lab Report IG. We've been having a lot of discussions on how to represent panels in fire, and so I've linked a Confluence page here with the different options that are currently supported or maybe better options to use in the future. So if you're interested in that topic, you can go there and check that out. And then the European Lab Report also took up calls again. So they're also working on the next iteration of that. Of other interest around HL7 is that the LRIIG, which is for lab results to EHRs, is going to add a component for cancer reporting based on the NACER V2IG that many cancer registries have implemented. And they're hoping to go to ballot May 2026 timeframe. So that's coming around the corner pretty quickly. Content would have to be ready by end of March. So we're talking about this topic on the first 30 minutes of the lab calls, which are Fridays at 1 p.m. in case if people are interested in that. And all these calls are on the HL7 call calendar, so they can be found there as well, or you can email me and I can send you info. Oh, Xavier, you have your hand up. Yeah.
Yes, I got a question for you, Ricky. This European lab report, that's for the European Air Data Space. Is
Yes.
it for the EHR to EHR connections, or is it also a one size fit all that goes from IVD systems to EHRs? Do you know that?
No, this is mainly I believe it's geared towards lab to providers.
Yes.
It's fire
Okay.
based.
Yeah, but there were a tendency in these EHDS to have a one size fit all um, what they call European EHR exchange format that was
Mm-hmm.
supposed to cover all the spectrum from IVD system to cross-border data sharing. And
Mm-hmm.
spend some time. I wasn't the only one, by the way, spending time telling them, well, the one size fits all is not going to work. You have to be more subtle than that. That's that was the context of my question.
Yeah, I mean
But it is
it's definitely it's run by HL7 Europe. So
that's
so
Janosch involved.
who?
Janosch.
I don't know if Janusz, but I know that Hynek and Giorgio and
Yeah.
a lot of the people that are on their European Semantic Working Group are involved on this
Yes.
call.
Okay.
Patrick Werner
And
is the lead, and Ralph Herzog
okay.
from Roche.
Russell's involved. Okay, from Roche. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Ralph from
Okay.
Roche.
We'll
Yeah.
see. Okay. We'll see where it goes because at some point it should end up in the implementation acts from the HDS. And so I'm looking forward to those implementation acts to understand what's going to be requested, and that's not very clear at all. Okay.
Right.
We'll see.
Yeah. Agreed.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, and then federal announcements that I'm aware of, and people can please chime in. So ASDP released the HTI 5 on December 29th and is open for comments. February 22nd is the close of comment date. And then ASTP also put out or withdrew the HTI proposed content that has not yet been used in other HTI rules. There's no comment period for this, so but we put the link to that announcement as well as the HTI2 proposed rule here, so folks have some background if they're not up to date on that. And then we also thought it might be important to know that the Reforming and Enhancing Sustainability Updates to Laboratory Testing Services Act, if that doesn't pass, I guess we'll have some issues with starting the end of this month. And if anybody knows more about that and wants to talk about that, please feel free, because that's the extent of my knowledge, is what I put on here.
Yeah, this is Andrea. I don't know if folks are aware, but PAMA was passed a decade ago, but for the most part, these cuts that would be impacting laboratories have been delayed due to usually congressional appropriations acts and last minute. And so with the government shutdown that occurred in the fall, this was due to go into effect, and the government kind of delayed everything related to the budget and shutdown type things that weren't already addressed till the end of this month. So there's a number of laboratory professional organizations that have been offering webinars and have been speaking. The Results Act has come up through the committees and is looking to kind of update some of the things with PAMA to have some different types of measurements that hopefully wouldn't be as impactful to laboratories. But there's a lot of question because it's dependent on it getting passed. And if it doesn't, then the existing PAMA law would be in effect, which would have the 15% cut. So there's a lot of questions right now. So we're kind of waiting to see what's going to happen with Congress and which direction things will go.
Thank you. Anybody else? Not. I'm gonna go over to other announcements then. We know that we're expecting a LOINC release in February, or the next LOINC release in February. Any other announcement folks have? I'm not hearing any. So then upcoming meetings, we've got the HL7 working group meeting, January 26th through the 30th. It's virtual only. We've got the ASTP meeting February 11th and 12th, and we provide a link to the agenda here. We have the IHE European Connectathon March 23rd through the 27th in Brussels with a link to it, and then the SNOMED CT business meeting in April 12th through the 16th in Vienna and virtual. Any other upcoming meetings we want the SHIELD community to be aware of? Okay, if you think of anything later, you can email me and I can add it to these slides too. I don't know if there were any recent meetings people have updates from. I'm not aware of any. And if not, we'll go up to the steering committee updates. So this steering committee, believe it or not, it's been 3 years in existence. So the first set of terms is expiring, and nominations are open for all positions on the steering committee. So everybody is eligible for a second term. And so what I've put in here is who's currently serving and who's eligible and hasn't told me yet that they wouldn't be able to come back. So, so there's definitely room for folks if they're interested in participating and serving on the steering committee. We know for sure we'll have one open healthcare provider slot. We have an open patient advocate slot for sure. And we may have an industry open slot. We haven't heard back from Roche. Nick, who is currently representing Roche, he can't serve. So I haven't heard back from him if he's found somebody else to represent Roche or if we're looking for a different member here. And I haven't heard anything from Labnostic either. So we may have 2 open industry slots as well. And we have our, so the notice around these openings was sent out December 21st. Nomination period is open until February 20th. So nominations can be sent to both Andrea and myself. And once I post these, you can also just click on this link in these slides. The ballots will be put together and vote will be on the steering committee call on March 24th. So that's it on the administrative side of things. And then the steering committee is currently working on looking at a 2030 vision document, maybe after looking at the ASTP ONC lab data interoperability report to Congress that came out last year, and kind of looking at which one of those elements in there Shield could focus on and come out with that. So that's kind of the current Shield steering committee work. Our next call is tomorrow from 12:05, starting at 12:05. So any questions, thoughts?
I just want to reiterate that we're grateful for everyone who's been able to participate in Shield, because without you participating in various capacities, we wouldn't be able to have Shield and kind of move things forward. So thank you.
Yes, most definitely. All right, then we do working group updates. The IVD Data Hub working group is kind of on hold since we haven't had any FDA participation, but I see an FDA participant on, so maybe 2026 will be the year we can pull this back out of hold. Would be great. Leader we're meeting every other week on Tuesdays, 9 to 10. So we just met today. These are the minutes from last week. Because of the break, we had all different kinds of dates. But I'll update them before I post this to today's minutes. And we've been kind of working on several things. The leader white paper was published last year in December, and the link to it is here. We're looking at figuring out more requirements for a pilot, and we still have the crowdsourcing Live It for Reportable Conditions file that if anybody is working on assigning loin codes to specific products that are testing for reportable conditions, be great to put those in there. So not everybody who needs to use that has to do the same thing if the manufacturer is not providing those things. And for those of you that are manufacturers that provide Live It content, thank you so much. I think it's really, really helpful. Um, and then we're working on how to represent the UDI in HL7. And we're working on a presentation to the CDC forum on standards adoption, which is now scheduled on March 3rd, 2026 from 12 to 1 p.m. Our next call is February 3rd. We moved it because HL7 working group meeting. Any questions on leader? If not, communications and branding. I think I got an email. Oops, okay, so I didn't get an update from Eric, but this is where we're at. Oh, this is, they already did this. We already did this, sorry. Must have missed going over this one. The next call for this group, which is currently only 2 members. So if you're interested in participating in working on helping to get the word out about SHIELD, you can reach out to Eric. Because with 2 members, the meetings are a little bit more ad hoc, according to when those 2 people can get together, rather than having a specific cadence. I try to keep the calendar on Confluence updated for these meetings, but if you're interested, please reach out to Eric. His email is in these slides. Standards and working vocabulary working group, I think that is going to come back.
Yeah, they're supposed to meet this morning, but we pinged Julia and Scott and folks to find out, because on our last steering committee they said that they were going to meet the 3rd Tuesday of the month at the old time at 11 a.m. Eastern. But we didn't receive any invite or response. So hopefully maybe next month.
Can you say the time again?
It's 11 a.m. Eastern, so it's just before this call, typically.
Okay.
So 10 to 11 Central.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But certainly, there's a lot of things related to standards of vocab, especially with you saw some of the things from HL7 messaging and things like that. So
Yep.
they're going to continue kind of working on things too.
Okay. And I just let Eric in, so Eric, I don't know. We just got past the communications and branding work group update. I don't know if you have anything more to add besides what is on the slide, which is not changed from last month, really.
Yeah, nothing really. Again, I think we're just updating our presentation opportunities page, and coordinating that meeting with IICC. I don't have too much else.
Great. Okay, then other topics. So one thing Dr. Liu brought up is that I guess CDC submitted 4 elements to lab-related elements to be included in USCDI version 7, and 3 of them, I guess ASDP is pushing back a little on them, and so they reached out to Dr. Liu to say, can they find use cases that support the inclusions of these elements, specifically items that are important for provider interpretation, and arguments around those. So we talked a little bit about this on the leader call this morning. but we wanted to bring it up on this call in case some of you might have some specific use cases or might have a suggestion on where we should keep working on the pulling together some of those use cases. We could create a Confluence page and do it asynchronously. We could talk about it, probably bring it up on the steering committee tomorrow, just definitely for awareness. Any other ideas? This is a quiet bunch today. All right, maybe I'll create a Confluence page so we could work on it asynchronously. So if any of you have any use cases for that support why this particular data element should be captured in an EHR system, you can enter that there. I'll include it in these slides before I upload them.
Ricky, just to clarify, so
Yeah.
Owen, CDC requested these be added. ONC is as just asking for justification.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. This we keep having here. I don't know that I've not done anything with this for over a year or 2 years even. So maybe next time we prep for this call, or maybe with the steering committee, we'll go over this and figure out if we still need to keep this slide because it's awkward to look at this once a month and not know what to do about it. All right, and last but not least, our call cadence. So the All Shield call is once a month on the fourth Tuesday of the month, but obviously we moved it to a week earlier for this month. But next month and March, we're on the 24th. And then we've got interim calls for specific projects or topics. We don't have any topics for the February 10th or the March 10th call at this time. So if anybody has any topics they're interested in, know about, want to talk about, please let me know. Otherwise, we're going to probably cancel the 10th. Of February. And any other things people want to talk about?
It might be helpful just to go back to some of the HL7 things. One of them that's arisen that's gotten some traction, especially in the last couple weeks before the ballot closed for the R6 fire earlier this week is grouping of lab results in the report. So there's been a number of folks globally on, thank you, Ricky. Just to share with folks, so globally we've had people from Europe, we've had people from Australia, the US, Canada, and the question is, in fire, how do you report out, when you're reporting lab results, how do you maintain the structure and grouping, especially if you might have multiple panels in a single report, reflexive results, interpretations, etc. A couple examples are if you have a culture and you have susceptibility testing, how do you make sure those susceptibility results are linked to the appropriate organism when there's more than one organism? So there's some structure. There's some examples that have been pulled from like reference labs and other things to kind of start this. But at the top, Ricky had showed there's a couple of different ways within fire that could be achieved. there have been a number using grouper lists, but they didn't have links to patient details. The diagnostic report and fire was one that folks had put up as an option, but that wouldn't really work with reflex testing as much. It would be kind of like having nested diagnostic reports, which is a diagnostic report is a little bit different, but there's a variety of people globally, including across the country, that have started to implement this in a variety of different ways.
Mhm.
Some vendors are using composition to create sections, as you're showing in number 4.
Right. And then there's creating a group resource or using a list resource to represent the panel within that diagnostic report. And then the last option was grouping based on the service request, which in discussions, people keep saying that's a workflow grouper and not a result grouper. So they don't really consider it very much. But it would be interesting. We added a column here to show people or to ask people could indicate examples. I mean, the ranking, which one of these options do they like the most? And somebody just emailed me, or I just saw the email of somebody who did actually a review of the different implementations and the implementations that are the have been around the longest is the observation has member without an indicator that it is an organizer, and the diagnostic report. And so I will update and add the analysis that David did in here. Probably
one other
either under
thing.
the pros or under examples.
Yeah, one other thing too, related to this too, like when you're having the observation has member or things that are not pointing back to the service request, which is like where the test order would be contained, the test order name, like a CBC or BMP. In the UK and Australia, they call it a full blood count. So you might see FBC/CBC, depending on the country and how they're naming it. But one of the things is in the diagnostic report, I think somebody bolded that you don't really need to have the test order name in the diagnostic report. And then, because again, like Ricky said, they see that as more order workflow related. And then there's sometimes some of their labs, including reference labs, will include information in the order, such as a challenge for certain challenge tests that may not be in the results. And so you kind of taking the two together is needed in certain tests, or there's going to be loss of information that can impact patient care. The other thing that comes into play from a standards perspective is if folks want to use one of those observations, which is typically for results in the diagnostic report for the CBC name, and then everything under it, as Ricky was showing, has member would be the hemoglobin, hematocrit, etc. for the results. Now we're having things that are order only things that don't have results themselves or units, that sort of thing, in an observation and fire. And so not only is it kind of you're losing context and meaning there, but you're also, when you're using standardized terminology like LOINC, you would have things that are order only LOINC codes for CBC, BMP that would be now on an observation. So it creates ambiguity and confusion, especially if you're doing queries and things like that. So this is still kind of discussion, but there was a huge push for folks to get their comments in for HL7 ballots earlier this week so they can be discussed. Some people said then you can't make changes in R6 and other people have said you can. So we'll see. Ricky, I don't know if you want to clarify
Yeah,
that.
so the thing with let me let Ed in here. The thing with the R6 ballot, this is the first normative ballot. And because it's a normative ballot, any resolutions that are applied that change what was there before will have to go back to ballot, except typos. And I mean, typos do too, but if all the comments were just typos, probably the ballot would be pretty quick, the second one. Um, but the most important part about this first ballot was to raise the issue now so that we can keep talking about it in the ballot, and if somebody's requesting a change to how this grouping works in this ballot cycle, then that is an issue that's been raised at the beginning of this ballot. And any changes we make will go through ballot again and again until it's published. But if nobody made a comment on grouper in this first ballot cycle, then it's not something that you could raise in the second ballot cycle, because the second ballot cycle is only for addressing changes based on comments from the first cycle in a normative ballot. But I pulled this up. This is the diagnostics module, and in it definitely describes how to link related observations using has member when it is, for example, a culture and susceptibility testing. So the use of has member for linking observation has been described for a long time. The difference here is that when you're using the has member just to create a grouping of observations without having to relate it to something else, that's more of what the discussion is about, if that makes sense. Because this has been described since, I think, our STU 3 or something. So using has member to link the susceptibility result to the organism that they belong to has been described for a long time. And that wouldn't necessarily change. Or that wouldn't change. But how this panel here is represented, that is kind of what the discussion is about.
Yeah, and that would impact any reflexive kind of panel orders, that sort of thing. I think the issue that's been challenging is that within fire, the service request is typically where the order is. And you'll see in some of the USCDI comments, actually, even on the lab orders, that folks are asking, is it just the lab test name, like the CBC, BMP, for the order, whatever is ordered, pathology, genomics, whatever the case might be. And that's where, we map to the LOINC codes. Or is this also the entire request for a test under orders? So it includes things like the provider, the patient.
What are orders?
Orders on the right. They're up in the upper right, I think.
Oh, yeah, I scrolled by. Yeah, so this laboratory
No
order,
worries.
right?
Yeah.
Is it just the order
The test order name, or
The
is
test
it
order.
everything in the order?
code?
Like when the order should be, especially if it's
Mhm.
like for future or so this is coming up quite a bit because in fire, the service request kind of supports both. The service request has kind of everything related to the order. Again, timing, other things. Ricky's bringing it
Yeah,
up
the
on the
service
screen.
request would be this entire resource. The order code would just be the service request.code. So it's just.
And then one thing too, just where it says code, where it's a codable concept, that's the test that's going to be requested. And the example for SNOMED, you can ignore that because in the US it would be LOINC.
Well,
But for
it's example binding.
it's an
So
example,
yeah,
so it's
yeah,
not,
you can
what
do
we would
either.
use here in the US would be LOINC for the order. And then the other thing for the codable concept in fire, a lot of folks have just been representing a lab test, whether it's the order of the result using just like the LOINC code, or if things aren't LOINC encoded, whatever the test compendium code is, which has no inherent meaning. Sometimes people call them local codes. However, we did get clarification about a year ago that the actual test to be performed, and then the test performed for the result, the test to be performed for the order, there actually has to be the name of the test that's indicated, not just a code. So there have been updates in US Core version 8 that's reflected, but there are people who are using other versions like R4. And so those implementations may not reflect some of those requirements too.
Yeah, so this one was also up for ballot this last cycle. So anyway, quick fire rundown of the grouping options. So if you're, interested in this, then this page is the page we're trying to get most of the work done asynchronously between calls. So
And then one other thing from a V2 perspective, a couple weeks ago, O&O decided to work on updating the lab results reporting initiative implementation guide, as Ricky has here. There's a request to add in the NACER content for cancer pathology reporting, because you might recall in the HTI proposed rule, there was a proposal to have a fire implementation guide to have cancer reporting not go through the EHR like it does currently, but to be triggering kind of like electronic lab reporting to public health from a pathology report. And so they're trying to kind of update the LRI guide and using V2, since that's widespread use amongst laboratories and LISs, to try to look at sending that from a pathology report to cancer registry reporting. Now, interestingly, and I know we have some CAP folks on, this would be good to get that information from to the registry sooner, but the cancer reporting is within a pathology report typically. So hopefully the pathology report kind of base would also be addressed. Although the folks working on the cancer part said that they don't have enough hours or time to do it all. So they're focused just on the cancer portion.
right. Yeah, and they're basing it on the existing NACER V2 profile, which hasn't been balloted. And so this is, bringing it over to HL7 for ballot and getting feedback. And this page is also linked to in the slides. For some reason, though, I couldn't copy the link over, so from the slides. But it should go there. You look at the slides right here, this one. Any other topics, questions, things people want to talk about?
Did you, and Ricky, I got on late, but I don't know if I think last time maybe we talked about HTI-5, or I don't know if you already covered that or.
Well, we did. So we said it was released on December 29th. Feedback is required by February 22nd. And then we talked about the other rule that came out that didn't have a comment period, that basically pulls back anything that was an HTI-2 proposed rule that hasn't been used in other HTI rules, that's no longer going to be utilized. So for
Right,
certification.
there were a couple of lab related. There was like
Yes, the LOI and the LRI are in there. Yes.
Yeah.
But there is no comment option for it, so not sure what we can do about it. But yeah, thanks, Eric, for highlighting that again, second time. It's always good. If nothing else, I'll give you guys 12 minutes back. And I'll talk to some of you tomorrow and all of you on the 24th. Unless we get somebody that sends us a topic for February 10th, in which case I'll talk to you on the 10th. Thanks, everybody. Happy New Year.
Okay, bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye.